Want to know how to remove flock name sets? Then watch this video to find out. Hello there. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you a nice easy way to remove these flock name sets from football shirts. So when I talk about flock, it's kind of like a felt material, and you'll see it more typically in shirts. Well, the Premier League had them up until like 2013, the name sets were flock. After that, they became vinyl. And in a lot of older shirts, you'll see flock or this felty material used for name sets. Now, if you've watched our other videos where we talk about how to remove vinyl name sets, you'll see that we use something called VLR, vinyl letter remover. And that's fantastic for vinyl. And sometimes it's good for flock, but the majority of the time, I find that using isopropyl alcohol is much better for the flock name sets. You have to leave it for a little bit longer, but what I find is that by using the alcohol, it removes more of the adhesive with the letter, so there's less residue for you to have to take off. Whereas the VLR is almost too good. It releases the letter straight away, but then leaves quite a thick residue behind. So like I say, I'm going to take you through how to take this off, and yeah, I'll take you over to the board over there and we'll have a close up and I'll take you through it. So here we go. Adams, fantastic player. I'm an Arsenal fan. He was one of the best centre backs we've ever had. He never wore this shirt though, so we're going to take this off. What we need for this is a board to put the shirt over, some isopropyl alcohol, a little container to put the debris in, a cotton pad, one of our famous scrapers. These are fantastic. Get yourself a set. Microfibre cloth, light box. So now then, let's turn on the light box, turn the shirt inside out. We're going to pull it over the light box so we can see where the letters are. There you go. So we can start on the A and the D. Going to spray some alcohol in the back. Now, as I've spoken about in other videos, when you're using solvent, try and mop up as much as you can of the excess solvent, just to minimise or lessen the effect of any kind of smear marks. So we're going to mop that up. Thing is, with alcohol, it takes a little bit longer to evaporate than VLR does, which is good because you need to leave it a little bit longer to work on the adhesive, but maybe 20 to 30 seconds. And then what we'll do, we'll have a look. We should be able, here we go, look, to just start peeling the letter off. And you really want the alcohol to be doing the job rather than using too much force. So you can see it's coming off. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on the board, and I'll use my scraper to start trying to lift letter up off the fabric. There we go. I'll take it away now, leaving a little bit of residue, but that's fine because we'll be able to get the residue off afterwards. Let's peel that away. Get in a little container. Right now then. Carry on. Just getting the letter off. Personally, I prefer working with flock versus vinyl. And I think if you're starting out, I think starting on a flock name set or sponsor is a better place to start than starting with a vinyl one. The reason I think for that is I feel like flock is a little bit more forgiving. Vinyl has a tendency to kind of disintegrate and can stain shirts. Also, as I said before, flock, you can use alcohol on flock, but for vinyl you'll need to use something called VLR, and that's not cheap. It's probably looking at £20 to £30 for, depending on the size, for a container of VLR. So if you're starting out, you don't really want to be spending too much money. Whereas alcohol you can get for £5 or £6, and it lasts a fair bit of time. It's not as noxious as VLR as well. As good as VLR is, it is a pretty noxious. It gives for some fumes. Whereas with alcohol, I guess the fumes, if anything, will get you drunk. So there you go. There's an extra bonus there. If you work with flock, you have more likelihood of getting drunk off the fumes than anything else. So let's see now. Okay, so we've got the letter A is pretty much off now. The last bit just coming off. You know, last bit off. Right, so there we go. Now the letter is off now. What we've got is this residue. So still a little bit wet from the alcohol. So I'm going to carry on giving it a scrape away with our scraper to try and get rid of more of the residue. Like you can see, it just comes away really easily, and it's the beauty of these scrapers is because I hand finish them with like a polishing tool. There's no sharp edges on them, so you're not going to snag the material. You're not going to damage it unless you push too hard, and I wouldn't advocate pushing too hard on it, on the material. But yeah, using the scrapers, you can kind of just scrape it all away. I'll hoover up later. Here we go. And as I've talked about in previous videos, it's good to find the kind of grain, if you like, of the material of the shirt, because if you go across the grain, there's a little bit more of an abrasive action and it's more likely to damage the shirt. Whereas if you go with the grain, so in line with the grain, you've got less chance of damaging the shirt. So what I mean by that, if I suddenly start going like this, you can see it's coming off, but instantly you see the material starts becoming a bit fluffy because you're damaging it. Whereas going in line with the grain, that doesn't happen as easily. Right, so let's see. This is the microfibre cloth. These are fantastic. Really get yourself a set of these. I'll put links to all of the items in the comments section, in the description, so you can get the right stuff. But they're fantastic because they're very fine and they don't damage the shirts, but they take everything off, which is fantastic. Now, that's not finished yet because the alcohol has now evaporated, but you can see a fair amount of it is gone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it back inside out, and with the light box you can still see the outline of the A. Put a little bit more on. Let's let it sit for a few seconds, let it work on the adhesive because it kind of dissolves it. And we're going to lay it back over. We're going to mop up any extra to limit the smear marks. Now we can use the scraper again, carry on working on it. Now I always recommend working from the back rather than the front, because with these solvents, what they do is they'll effectively take the top layer of glue off, which is fine, but if you think glue may have many layers, it may take many turns to get rid of all of the glue. So, and in that time, you will have damaged the fabric by rubbing it. Whereas if you go from the back, you're really just dislodging that bottom layer, which is what's attaching it to the material. And it makes it a lot quicker. Look, already you can see that's almost gone now. So I'm going to use my cloth now. And I'm going to go over. And when you're doing this, you can be forgiven for thinking, well, I've got to get rid of every single remnant of what was there before, otherwise it's going to look bad when it's finished. But actually, a small amount of residue that will maybe left will come off, either be covered by a new name set going over the top, and I always recommend putting a new name set over the top of one that's come off. But also the heat from the heat press has a tendency to kind of really deaden any additional residue and just make it invisible. There's any chemists out there that knows why that happens, then please do get in contact. But it just is. That's what happens. It really gets rid of any of those last bits, makes them invisible. Now, this A is pretty much done. Once you get down, so this is like 95% of the A is gone. You can see. Once you get down to this amount, you can get away with applying a little bit of alcohol to cotton pad and just going over the front now with it, just to kind of get those last bits off. Let it sit on there. Let it sit on there. And then use the microfiber cloth to get rid of those last remnants. Here we go. That A is now well and truly gone. What I'll do now is I'm going to remove the rest of the letters, and then I'll show you what it looks like. And here you have it. Here, Adams is off now. You'll see that there is a bit of residue left. It actually looks worse on camera than it does in real life. Now you can spend a little bit longer, put some alcohol on the front and rub it, as I've shown for when we were doing the A, but I'm pretty confident that when I press a new name set over the top, I'll be taking the 6 off as well, so I can choose any name, but when I press the new name set over the top, it will remove these last little bits of residue. So I'm not really too fussed about trying to get it so it's totally invisible. But there you have it. So scraper, alcohol, microfiber cloth, board, light box, Bob's your uncle. If you liked our video, then please don't forget to click like and subscribe.